What's going on, everybody? This is John Dudley Speaks. Welcome back. I am your host, John Dudley, and this is our segment, Pratiti Picks. It's back for a limited time, I guess.
Limited time. And I would just like to clarify, this is actually John Picks because he picked this
I
show.
didn't pick this one. You said you wanted to pick this one.
No, I said I'd watch it. I haven't seen it.
No, Pratiti did pick to do this one with me, even though I picked it. But John Picks, as she's covered before in the podcast, John Picks is basically everything else on this podcast. So it would be unfair to label it that way.
Seems like a fair dynamic to me.
But we are going to be covering a very good comedy, a widely acclaimed, widely awarded comedy. But before we get to that, I'm going to go through some news real quick.
I still think it's hilarious that you cover pop culture news.
Well, when someone's listening to this, they'll be like, oh yeah, like this happened and that happened.
Nothing screams pop culture more than our own finest John Dudley.
Yeah, your finance guy working in the retail sector who's like, yeah, let's see what's going on with this
feels like
insider.
You're gossiping about the world, you know?
I'm not gossiping. I'm just saying, hey, this is something that excites me. This is something that's fun, and maybe it'll be fun for you. Maybe it's something you like.
What's up for the world?
Martin Scorsese has some new casting news that just released today. It's a couple things, actually. So for his Jesus movie, apparently, yes, because he's doing a Jesus movie. It's called Jesus, like in all caps.
That's the name?
It's like a biography about Jesus's life, I think. And, which is just awesome.
Primary source, the Bible.
Jesus. But I think in the running for the starring role is Andrew Garfield and Miles Teller. So those two apparently are going to be duking it out in auditions, I guess, for Scorsese, that will be insane. Either one is a great pick.
Do you think they'll grow out their hair?
Yes, of course. And you've seen Andrew Garfield with the long hair, right? Have you seen those movies?
Can a white man really play Jesus since he was Middle Eastern?
Well, those are the questions that we come to the podcast for.
I mean, I'm just putting this out there.
You're just spitting facts.
That's true.
But the other news for Scorsese is that he is doing a Frank Sinatra biopic. Okay. And Leo DiCaprio will be playing Frank. It's confirmed today. Do
you think they'll go into all of his shady mob business?
Oh, of course. It's Scorsese. It has to be like a mob.
That's the only thing that they cover.
Yeah, they don't cover. He doesn't sing one bit.
No music.
So I saw a tweet that said Scorsese saw Maestro and said, "I've had enough. I'm doing it myself." But apparently Jennifer Lawrence is going to be playing his wife in the movie. So it's their second time that they're collaborating after Don't Look Up. So it'll be very interesting to see what they do instead of being under Adam McKay's direction, them being under Martin Scorsese.
I love Jennifer Lawrence. I think she's hilarious. So I'm down to watch whatever she's in.
I think it'll be good. Do you think it'll be, what's the over-under? You think it's going to be over 3 hours or under?
I'm not watching it if it's over.
Go to that. It's going to be 4 hours long.
I need a higher incentive.
We need to put our own intermission in the middle of it, like honestly, some of those theaters did.
Yes. If they had intermissions, I would feel better about it. I'm over it. Anyways, next.
Keanu Reeves just got cast in Sonic 3 as Shadow, which is going to be literally awesome because now for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, we're going to have Idris Elba as Knuckles, and we're going to have Keanu Reeves as Shadow. And the first two movies are very just inoffensive and fun, but this is my hot take. I think Sonic the Hedgehog,
was going to be offensive third time around.
they go full pivot into
That's really what you were teeing up to say.
they just pivot into being fully offensive,
no plot, all
like a heavy R rating. It's like Sonic's just smoking out of a bong.
It's like all of the like Disney character horror movies.
Yeah, like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and Blood and Honey 2.
Anyways.
Hey, they got the Poonaverse. That's an amazing thing.
What a weird. Anyways.
They call it the Poonaverse or like the children horror cinematic universe or something like that. But that is an amazing tidbit of news. But what I'm trying to say, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, my hot take is that it is going to be an amazing movie, actually. It's going to be like a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes.
You know, as you know, my feelings about how amazing you things are have gone down because everything is the best of all time. That's not true. And like you just keep adding like niche categories, acting like it makes it different, but like not everything. This is the best series of all time. This is the best season. This is a
bad podcast to do that on, considering my feelings about Veep are like it's a top 5 for me in comedy history. But you know, I'm gonna save that for later in the podcast.
But you didn't save it because you said it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll say it like a few more times. I'll say it once for every season of Veep that exists. And then last but not least, Invincible, which I covered on the podcast about a week ago, I think, just got renewed. I think they botched the announcement of it because it was in a press release. It said renewed for season 4 and season 5, but then they ended up taking it off of the press release
because they decided that they no longer.
Knowing streaming nowadays, that could honestly happen. It's like, hey, by the way, you're renewed. No, never mind, you're canceled. Sorry. Like that's well, it's made by Prime Video, so it wouldn't do that. If it was made by HBO Max,
I think you just mean Max.
Oh, come on. It's such a stupid name.
Does HBO even exist anymore?
It does. Like they have an HBO channel on Max. So like, what's the fucking point?
So what's extra about Max? If HBO's a channel,
Max is just Max Originals and they don't call it channels. And this has been happening for a while, so like this isn't new that I'm coming up with this.
It's new to me.
They're not channels; they're hubs.
No, it's not.
It is. Go to Max right now. It will be like Hubs DC.
You know why?
Hubs.
You know why it's a hub and not a channel? Because they can't fix their stupid interface.
Their interface is so bad.
All right.
Oh my god. Okay, let's continue on. So we are going to be covering the smashing success, one of the best comedies of the 2010s, highly acclaimed from critics and fans alike, Veep.
And from his introduction, if he didn't say the name, we would never know what he's talking about because all of the comedies we watch that he likes are described as the following.
Okay, this is getting a little out of hand, okay? So, all right, we're gonna get into, starting with, I wanted to break down the episode into little chunks.
The seasons?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I wanted to break down, like, this episode of the pod, just, like, started out, talk about season 1 and 2, then 3 through 5, and then 6 and 7. Okay. Just go through the 4 different categories.
Can I give you my hot take on each of them first?
Yes, I'd like to. Well, we're going to do, like, humor, character, personality, and style, that whole, like, just have a conversation about that. That's my thought.
It's very structured.
I know, like I mean, yeah, have some structure. But wait, I want to hear your takes on every season.
I feel like season 1 and 2 are boring. Season 2 are, you know what?
That's fair.
Season 2 gets there. Like, it starts to find its groove. It starts to, like, become a thing. But her as Veep, you know, it's so fitting that she hates being Veep because, like, it's literally the worst of the series. She's so fucking boring.
Yeah,
she has no job, no purpose, and like...
It kind of feels like she's in a limbo for like most of the first 2 seasons.
It feels like I was in a limbo, being forced to watch this show.
It was like, you know, I feel like... Well, what were your thoughts on... You're not funny. I'm just going to ignore that. Season 3. What are your thoughts on season 3 through 5, though?
Season 3 through 5 I liked.
I thought you were going to give me your take on each season.
I am. I'm trying to think. Seasons 3 through 5, when she basically goes through her campaign, and then the twist of the century. It was like, honestly, I feel like, here's my hot take. I like the show, and as much as I understand each of the plot twists and endings, I hate them. I hate them. I know why they happen. I understand, and I understand she's about, I get it. But it's like, the payoff is that it never happens, and it drives me fucking insane.
Well, that's the point of the show.
I don't care.
Well, you kind of, like, and, just to add, like, a little context, like, if you look at the modern political landscape that it was in 2016 when they did the recount idea.
Oh my God, I get a
which
stomachache
is
thinking about
very
that.
interesting, because it forecasted in the 2020 election a lot of things that happened during that election. But I feel like because the writers come at it from a perspective of like understanding that the characters do not deserve anything that they believe that they deserve. Mm-hmm. And, since a lot of the stable of writers from season 5 to 7 worked on Succession as well, mm-hmm. You kind of get that feeling that you got when you watch Succession. They're like, yeah, that's right. They don't deserve that release that they would get if they won.
Yes, but...
And even if they do, it's like no one wins in that scenario.
No, I know. I agree with you. But I think for, Succession, I don't know what exactly the full difference is, but for Succession, even though it was, anticlimactic that none of them got it still felt climactic. It felt like Tom got it. And Tom, you were rooting for Tom for most of the series until he became the bad guy.
Spoiler warnings, by the way, if you have not watched Succession.
If you haven't watched
it's been a year.
It's been a couple years. At this point, if you haven't watched it, you were never going to watch it, so I am not sorry.
It's a year. It's been a year.
Anyways, but Tom, you were rooting for him for most of the show. You saw how shitty everyone was to him, and then how that changed him and made him the evil person. And so it almost felt justified that he was evil. And even though he's weak and he it's just the face or whatever, he still gets to be CEO. And so somehow that still feels a little bit like vindication for him.
I disagree, because I do think as much as he was a terrible, treated terribly by others, I feel like he also treated others terribly.
And by others, you mean Greg?
No, not just Greg. He treated his staff horribly. He treated his job horribly. He was spread, lies and, deceitful information, and also covered up a lot of stuff too.
My point is Veep. It's you don't want her to be president, but you don't not want her to be president either.
Because you kind of want to see how the shit show goes down when she is president.
Exactly. Too. You're you almost feel her excitement. You're yes, I know you're going to do a terrible job, and I know you're not going to get anything done, but I see how bad you want this, and I kind of want to see it play out.
But then, so moving to season 6 and season 7,
yes,
where we see a really huge tonal shift.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that when we moved out of kind of the election phase and into her just kind of sitting with her legacy and also,
I think that those 2 seasons are my favorite. But I will say season 6 episode 1 was my least favorite.
It was rough.
I did not like it.
The adjustment period of her going from president to private citizen.
Yes, and I understand why it was necessary, and I don't think I would have changed anything necessarily about it, but it just felt so purposeless, and it just felt like I said, anticlimactic after season 5. And season 5, yes, they do such a good job. You have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea who's going to win and XYZ, but
I think also it shifting out of the DC like beltway dynamic
Yeah.
into splitting up the cast across like New York City and
Yeah,
Nevada.
I have mixed feelings about that.
And honestly, it was very similar to Parks and Rec when they opened in London
No,
in
but
season 6,
Parks
which I
and
did not
Rec-
like.
I didn't like their London episode, but Parks and Rec, I don't know. It was just felt like more tight knit, and maybe because it was like a feel good show, and
Yeah,
this is a feel bad show.
it's supposed to make you feel
Listen.
like a good person.
I feel bad enough.
This is supposed to make you feel like, hey, everything sucks, nothing works
Look.
out, and everyone is bad.
Listen.
That's kind of the feeling that you get from Veep.
Listen, my life is stressful enough and feel bad enough that I don't want to feel bad from the TV I watch.
Well, but that's the I think
And,
you can feel joy from watching these characters be hilariously cruel to each other because let's go back to
No, listen. Hilariously
season 1.
cruel, yes. But the finale,
We'll get to it. We'll get to it because like if let's go back to season 1 and season 2 because we briefly covered it in your take on it. But I think season 1 and season 2, since Veep is a remake of Armando Iannucci's The Thick of It, which is a British comedy,
of course it is.
I think season 1 and season 2 are very like British humor centric. It kind of reminds me of The Office's UK
so what
version.
you're saying is that's why it's boring.
That's yeah. Well, wow, you're just hating on every British listener we have.
I think that
Which probably isn't any.
thank you. But listen, I think that American TV does not do a good job of conveying British humor.
Yeah, and I think the way you're missing is that like Armando Iannucci created both.
Yeah.
So like
Oh, really?
Yeah, he carried over that same aesthetic from The Thick of It into Veep.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I think to your point, even if you have the original creator of something that is like more UK centric and it's like dry delivery and very just like cold, detached humor, I don't think it translates as well to an American context.
Because
either.
I also think the actors don't necessarily hit the right beats.
Yeah, you don't get to be as unwieldy. Like, you look at a Jonah Ryan, who's just kind of creepy but normal in the first 2 seasons.
Hey,
But
why
then-
is everyone calling him creepy, okay? He would never rape anyone.
I wouldn't rape the president.
That's a promise.
That's not a threat, that's a promise.
Oh my God.
Iconic. I do think Jonah Ryan's best line, just a little tangent, I do think his best line outside of like, okay, fine, Jesus Christ, like, I'll be vice president, just stop yelling at me. That one's great. And then also, like them saying, Alexander Hamilton wasn't president. He's like, oh yeah? Then why the fuck did they make a musical about him? It's just so... He gets so strong-willed towards the end. And that's what I'm talking about, is that like, he's kind of like just usual Washington, D.C. douche. And then he transforms into literally a cartoon character by the end.
I don't
and
know
it's
if it's
hilarious.
a cartoon character if there are real people like him in government.
Well, that's why they had to end Veep, because it was becoming so like close to reality that like there are people, you know.
Do you think
and it's-
Marjorie Taylor Greene would adopt Christian math if she watched
Oh,
this
like
show?
the Christian math versus Muslim math.
math?
I feel like that's something that she would do. I
my-
feel like it's something that like
Is that the
you know,
same thing as girl math?
I don't know. Wait, girl math?
You don't know what that is?
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Isn't it like with the finances? Like there's some kind of like cheat or like workaround that you can use with girl math.
It's like a good example of it is if you pay for something with cash, then it's free because it doesn't show up on your credit card bill.
That's so stupid.
But I feel like
You know
John.
what boy math is?
I feel
Just
like-
like you don't count anything. All of it's free.
I feel like John, between the two of us, you are more likely to adopt girl math.
No,
than
I
me.
do. Yeah. I mean, if I have a Chipotle gift card, like that's free. Like I don't count using the credit. Yeah, I'm getting off track. Like okay. You know, what character, before we go back into it, what character do you think would use girl math on this show?
All of them.
Gary?
You know,
I feel like Gary.
He came to mind first, but I actually don't think so. I think he's very, what's the word? I
But
think
you
he's
remember
very
that steak
meticulous.
dinner? The opulence at the state dinner?
But that's for Selena. It's not that Gary's not aware of how much things cost.
Yeah, it's for Selena for him. Like, he's getting something out of it, more attention from her by doing something for her.
I don't think that's the same thing as, like, girl math.
Like, that's why I think Gary is actually one of the most, selfish characters in the show. Like, I don't think he's on a Dan Egan level.
I can't talk about Gary. I can't
We'll get to Gary. But, okay, season 1 and season 2, it's very much like, British style.
You can skip it, honestly. If you want a recap, she
there's
was
some
VP,
funny stuff
and then
in
she
there.
became president because the president resigned. And then that's it.
Well, yeah.
Nothing else important happens.
I think there's some good foundational elements to the characters. You learn, Dan Egan is a sleaze, Amy Bruckheimer is a workhorse, Mike is an idiot, but he's somehow still good at his job.
But you can learn all those things from season 3.
Yeah, I think season 3 is where it really started to hit its stride. When you get introduced to Richard Splett, who is, honestly, like the biggest winner of a character out of all of these people.
Why does he remind me of you?
Richard Splett is just like he wants to. He wants to make sure everybody's okay.
Well.
Yeah.
He means so well, but
he causes.
But he
some
also
problems
doesn't
too.
think before he speaks.
He's so funny though, because he is this lovable teddy bear, but then he will cause like a bowl, like just this giant bowl in a china shop type of destruction, like in like just random fuck ups, like in season 3 where like he and Selena are. I think it was like when she's trying to handle the abortion comment, right, in early season 3, and he's just like telling her, oh, the bathroom doesn't work and all this stuff. Like, he's just a train wreck, but he's trying his best. Whereas everybody else in the room, whenever you're next to Richard in the show, starting in season 3, it's pretty visible. But, like, whenever you're next to Richard in the show and you see how nice he is and then how terrible the rest of them are, I think the writers do such a great job at, like, showing us that disparity. Especially starting in season 3, I think is when they start to shift a little bit more tonally about the election and made it a lot more American-centric and accessible for an American audience.
I will say, I think the nice thing that they did with Richard is that Richard is never the butt of the joke. He makes the joke, but he's not the joke. And even though he's the only nice character, he's the smartest character. He's probably the most respected character.
And it's all respectful character.
Yeah,
as well.
And it's all subtly. Like, everyone's...
Yeah, they never play it up. They never, like, ham it up, and they're just like, you must love Richard. Which I feel like if this show was released now, they would go out of, like, writers would go out of their way to prove that these people are bad and these people are good. Whereas, like, it's a lot more implicit in how this show was written, especially in its heyday.
Yeah, I think it just made sense.
Yeah. And, like, season 4... I feel like when we got to the actual election and Tom James entered the fold, like, that's when I think this show really took off.
Tom James.
Piece of shit. I hated him.
Wait, I kinda love him.
No,
I
he's
love
sinister.
The character.
Oh, it's a brilliantly written character because, Tom James, brilliantly played by Hugh Laurie from House, and I did not expect Hugh Laurie to be the kind of person to pull off that kind of performance where he's so charming.
Brooding and know-it-all. It sounds exactly like his House character.
Well, yeah, but like...
Speaking stuff out of his ass even though he has no idea what he's talking about.
Like, he was a different level of, like, behind-the-scenes, deceptive that I thought was, like... I felt like he... next to Selena is like the second worst character in the show.
Well, here's the thing. I think this is why I think he's hilarious. Because, they never go out of their way to, like, make him look like an idiot or, like, say that he is an idiot and acts like an idiot. But, like, he makes the same fucking mistake every time.
He does,
he tried to go under Selena's back. Everyone knows how much of a piece of shit he is. And so they went under his back and they elected Montez. And then the second time, he's about to, like, get the nomination.
Well, I think his Selena pride does him and ego is, like, so inflated that he thinks everybody likes him.
Male figure ever.
Every male figure in this show, for sure, except for Richard. But, like, I mean, if we're going to talk about male ego, we should definitely talk about Jonah and Dan, because
there's a difference between male ego and delusional.
Well, yeah, and there's also a difference between being like different types of a man child. Whereas Dan is a man child that like doesn't understand like trust, respect,
a
love.
Teenage child.
No, he's more like this. I don't know. I feel like he's just kind of a monster of a human being, because all he's motivated by is money. No, like Dan Egan is only motivated by money and power.
Yeah.
And who he can get over to like be, top of the totem pole.
Right.
Whereas Jonah Ryan is desperately trying to get respect from a childlike point of view.
He's trying to get love. It's not even respect that he's after. He doesn't care if he's respected or not. He just wants to feel loved.
And I think like Jonah, you could see that like there's some little parts where Jonah like you could feel him being trying to be humanized by the writers at some points, because he's made fun of so much.
Yeah.
And then you'll see these little interactions like with Congressman Nojaw and his staffer Will, who he forces to memorize these insanely crude lines, which honestly by the end that shtick is still not old. It's so what is it at the funeral at the finale where he's like I like jizz. He's like, oh, he just ain't what he used to be. But like when Will interacts with Jonah, and they're just like, oh yeah, like I just wanted you to know that I wanted you to be the godfather of my kids. He's like, oh yeah, no problem. Like you could see that Jonah like values like good friendships, but like he just can't really get that many of them, so he lashes out in this insane way to the point where it brings him to possibly becoming president. And I just think that's so funny, because if he didn't take that step in season 5 to become a congressman, like that changes his arc so materially from being just staffer to legitimately can alter the balance of like power and government. Like, and I don't think we talk about like how Kent and Ben put those wheels in motion as much as Dan and Selena did. So it's insane when you think about like just one little tweak of a character arc, how it shifted everything basically.
Yeah.
And like moving to
the finale.
Well, one more thing before we leave off of like season 5, the recount stuff, all of that is like it's still unpredictable. But I think what we got to talk about most unpredictable in those middle seasons is when they altered the format of the show. So season 4, when they did the testimony episode, that was all done in like C-SPAN, like kind of documentary footage, and what was it, like the depositions. I think when Veep would actually venture outside of that like their usual format, it would like actually highlight the things that work best about the show.
That and like what's
like
her name? Catherine's
McCartney
documentary.
Yes, so I was gonna get to that too. Like the kissing your sister documentary. Ty is like kissing your sister, and she's like, "Well, this feels like my sister took a shit on my chest." It's just like that. Catherine's documentary is just so revealing about all of the major developments and motivations that these characters have. Mm-hmm. And like some of them, it's like they're just getting by, really. Like Ben, I feel like he's just like, I want to die, but this is all I know how to do, so I'm gonna do it. Kent is a robot. He's just like numbers, so like that's what kind of gives him a little bit more purpose, is knowing he can control certain outcomes by the data that he gets. And then you have all the other ones like Dan and Amy, who are just motivated by like Amy, for instance, is just like this workhorse, and you see it in that documentary that Catherine makes, that Amy is just like a neurotic mess. Dan is just a control freak, and Richard comes off as the nicest person in the world still. So it's like when you get like the veil kind of lifted in the show just for those 2 episodes, you kind of get to see like what everybody else in that world would see. And it's really interesting. I think that's where Veep shines the brightest.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
And then like moving forward to, moving to season 7, because I know we talked extensively about season 6.
But we should talk about the finale.
That's what I'm saying. Season 7 and like the lead up to that finale, like it felt very much season 5. Like we're getting to like
It didn't feel like a finale episode. Like there was no end in sight.
All of like the delegate aspects of it, and that I felt like was very prime era Veep. Like,
it was very good.
Yeah, it felt very like that there were actual stakes, but also at the same time, I feel like the finales with comedies that are satirical can be a little dodgy sometimes, because you look at something like Seinfeld, I think is a good example, where it ended in a very like, I don't know, just kind of haphazard way that like I felt like the writers just didn't know what to do to like communicate like these people don't deserve a happy ending. But I felt like Veep like buttoned it up in a way that, it says that, but at the same time it's giving you like fun little tidbits into the future.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed how they were able to like ramp up the suspense in that like final delegates selection, and like her screaming at Amy, and like,
yes, and all of that was hilarious.
The Kellyanne Conway thing didn't work for me as well.
My bone to pick is like, I don't know, I thought and hoped for more character growth.
From who? From Selena?
Everybody.
I feel like they didn't deserve the growth.
But
that's the point. They're all assholes.
Yes, but even assholes can grow. It makes them more complicated.
But,
because here's the thing. It's like it didn't bother me that they weren't growing until the finale. The fact that I felt like, and I get it. I know what you're gonna say, but like all of their endings, it just felt flat for me. And I understand why, like, what your perspective of, like, why each of them deserved that finale.
Yeah, because it's different from, like, Silicon Valley, I think, did very much the same
thing. But I didn't like Silicon Valley's finale.
And I didn't either.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a very flat finale because it just, like, tried to, like, make this emotional impact when there was none.
Yeah.
Like, when these characters didn't really deserve that emotional payoff.
And here's the thing. It's not that it was a bad finale. It wasn't. Because it made an emotional impact. My stomach hurt.
Punch.
Yeah, my stomach hurt after watching it.
Well, I looked over at you when Gary, got, taken away, and you're just like, that's not how they're gonna end it, right? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm sad. I've seen the show like 3 times, and it still makes me sad that that's the ending.
Honestly, that's not the part that got me, and they knew. It was the showing up 24 years later with the lipstick.
Yeah.
He
never sold her out either, which also speaks to his character and how he felt about Selena.
I know.
Also, seeing Bill Erickson and Amy together just felt like another gut punch, because like you told me, like, she really wanted to have that baby with Dan.
Yeah.
And like he's like, you want to go Dutch on an abortion? I can Venmo you my half, which is an insane thing to say.
It is hilarious.
But hilarious. But like, she really wanted to have that baby, and she talks about how she never had kids, and she's with Bill Erickson, who's like this, honestly, like just a human like piece of drywall. Like he's not really, he's like an unemotional human being. And then you like see that Jonah has ended up having a happy marriage with his half-sister, which is insane.
Who knows if it was happy?
Well, they're together. I will say the one line where he says about his wife, he's like, she's gonna give me a hand job in a hot tub, and she goes, "It's my birthday." I will not get over that. But like that ending, seeing all the characters and when they ended up, and knowing that Ben also had died, which made sense because he was like 100 years old. And then Kent being in a biker gang made sense.
Yeah. Dan
being a sleazebag that's with a 20-year-old, it makes sense.
Was born in 2019.
Insane, right?
The year we graduated from college.
But like, I felt like that actually made sense. And it made sense that Richard was president. Like,
Yes.
It made sense that Kemi Talbot was a 2-term president. It made sense that Selena was only known for one thing, which was reversing gay marriage permanently, and then also briefly freeing Tibet, only for her to make a deal to become president and then reverse that decision again. She's literally the worst person of all time by the end of the show. And then also like having it being undercut, like her funeral being undercut by the death of Tom Hanks is just too funny to me.
I think the only emotionally satisfying moment for that finale for me, and not to say like
her
the
getting epilogue or like the actual finale.
No, like after she got the nomination. Like I feel like those were like two separate things.
Yeah.
So like the only satisfying portion on the like aftermath part is her being in the White House and realizing that she like got here, but like you can just see it in her face, and you can see it in her eyes that she like hates it because she's all alone.
Yeah,
and like in her,
she also doesn't enjoy being president. That
sounds familiar.
Well, that's the thing. She just wanted to win. Like she has this.
Yeah.
And I feel like they touched on that too, in
did.
like some flashbacks in season 6 where you see her losing consistently and being treated like dog shit by her husband, by like
that's why
like the country.
It feels like that's why she wanted to win. She feels like she sacrificed so much for it, and she's lost so much that she has like nothing else to lose. So she's willing to like sell her soul or what's left of it and anything else because this is what she's owed as repayment for the things that politics took away from her.
Yeah, it feels like very personal, but at the same time, you like just really can't get on board with how she does it because it's just very destructive and explosive, corrosive even, you know.
I don't love watching things that make me feel bad. And so like watching that finale.
Hey, the good to bad in this show is like
made me feel happy that I don't have to watch it anymore because it made me sad because I was like, what the fuck?
Well, like I don't think it's a sad show though.
It's not.
So much fun to watch.
It's fun. I agree.
It's
interesting,
fast paced and hilarious.
I wouldn't watch it again.
I'd definitely watch it again. It's
I know.
So much fun.
You watch it.
It's just such a blast. It's just like I think when it really hits that pocket from like season 3 all the way to the end, where it's just extremely like explosive and witty and fast paced, and I feel like some shows don't do this as well, but then some shows like Veep are expert at it. Mm-hmm. The more vulgar it gets, for some reason, like it fits the world a lot more, and it fits the tone and the general characterization of these people. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about like the stop. Wait. Listeners, she is like making faces at me while we're doing this podcast, which is really yeah, and now she's gaslighting me. This is ridiculous. All right, I do want to get to our final question. Is it nuanced?
I fucking hate you.
No, we're gonna say this every single time.
I like a nuanced show.
Yeah. I only say this because Pratiti did once say to me, the finale of How I Met Your Mother is really nuanced.
It is. And you know what?
Yeah, it's poorly nuanced.
You literally use the same word to describe it. So now
it's a bad finale.
No, it's not.
But the question still stands. Is it nuanced?
It is. Not in the way I would like it to be, but it is. It just it just lands flat for me, though.
I think it's... No, the overall show, not just the finale. Is it nuanced?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. I feel like... Yes, because they do delve into, like, the whys of each character really well, and you feel like you know each character, except Kent.
Well,
I feel like even Ben you know, but Kent you're like, okay.
You know, all you know about Ben is that he really likes Asian women.
And all you know about Kent is that Sue broke his heart.
Sue is so interesting because her number one line for me is when she's like, "It shouldn't be that hard for you, Jonah. You're it's what is it? It's smaller than your mom's womb, and you were in there till you were 15." Which is insane thing to say, and I love it.
But yeah, like
I do think it's nuanced as well.
I think like it does a good job of delving into the why, but like I said, it doesn't do a good job of moving on. And maybe that's the point of like they're stuck, and I get it, but
I feel like there's an
like
intentionality behind the writing, because I feel like a lesser show would try to evolve these characters.
I disagree.
Really?
I think Veep did it masterfully, and I think if you were going to keep characters stuck where they were, that is
in their own personal hell, basically.
Yeah,
kind of like It's Always Sunny.
It makes sense, but I do think that like having some level of growth and that kind of shaping their decisions and changing the trajectory of their future would have been maybe a little bit more interesting to watch.
Possibly. In a political context, I think so. I think one of the reasons why they didn't get that growth is because you had a lot of writers from the Seinfeld end of things, like that handled like the last couple of seasons of Seinfeld, where they just decided, okay, we're going to make a decision to make these characters fully loony and off the rails.
Yeah.
And when you make that decision, you kind of forfeit the idea that like these characters can grow past that.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec did it masterfully.
I don't think Parks and Rec went the full loony, like they didn't go 100% full throttle into that. They towed the line and balanced it, which I think is a different thing, which is that's a whole other, accomplishment in itself, because there's many shows that can't do that. Like 30 Rock is very cartoonish, but it also grounds itself.
Yes.
Like Parks and Rec did. Whereas Veep went fully cartoonish by the end. And I applaud it for that, because that's a hard decision to go from like kind of brittle British humor that's grounded in reality for the first 2 seasons, and then for them to, I don't know, keep the context still in reality, but the characters completely out of it,
right,
is a mismatch that I don't think can really be pulled off by many writers nowadays.
That's fair.
But
all right, John.
My favorite line delivery
before
we get to some recommendations.
Recommendations?
Yeah. We have recommendations.
No.
You don't have a recommendation?
I want to say what's next. That's my
Well,
recommendation.
we do have what's next coming up, so like, can you hold your horses a little bit, lady?
So long.
I take that back. If you listen to that and it sounded cringy,
did.
I agree. I'm with you there. But the line delivery for me that was my favorite in rewatching Veep was when Mike calls that woman a stupid cow. I'm trying to help you, you stupid cow. And then Jonah walks in and says, great job. What are you going to do for an encore, Mike? You're going to punch the kid? And it had me on the floor. It had me on the floor more than Richard T. Split. Don't know why I said T. My middle name is John.
That too.
That's pretty good.
I agree. Those are good. All right.
Yes. Recommendations. I have one recommendation, and then we both have a recommendation together.
And what about my own recommendation?
And then you have your own.
Yeah, don't forget about me.
Oh, I'm not forgetting about your recommendation. Curb Your Enthusiasm is mine.
Of course it is.
I only have one episode left of the entire series. I can't believe it's over.
And like your avoidant personality, you've been avoiding it.
I have been avoiding it. I'm very sad that it's over. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, and Larry's been lights out this final season. I've been really enjoying there's like a slight political commentary, but not too much, because Larry never tries to dig into that too much. But I do find it funny that the whole plot of the season is him getting arrested for him getting arrested for like basically violating the Georgia voting law by like handing out water to a voter that's in a line.
Yeah.
And then him becoming like this martyr for the cause when he really doesn't care. I just think it's so funny.
That is funny.
But yeah, our recommendation, the two of us have been binge watching X-Men 97.
So good.
Which fucking rocks.
Which is sexy because like I John and I really bonded over COVID, during COVID, watching all these Marvel movies and Marvel shows, because it was just like fun to kind of get into like the backstories and all these complicated lores.
Then they blew it up during Phase 4.
It's just been so boring that like I honestly
there's
have
been
not
some diamonds in the rough.
I mean, more like some charcoal in the process.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Guardians 3 is fantastic. Spider-Man No Way Home is fantastic.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot of fluff in there. Even Loki Season 2, in some aspects, I think really just pushed my buttons a little bit, where so much about the timey-wimey He Who Remains bullshit. And it's just like, I get tired of hearing what's going on instead of like letting it unfold in a show don't tell kind of way. But having Marvel take on something that is completely different than anything they've ever done, it's also continuation of the X-Men animated series from the 90s, and just embedding so much of these characters like with heart and like motivations that are relatable, current day context that works in like in a way that would fit the 90s as much as it does now.
Yeah.
When it comes to ostracizing of different peoples across the world, like the mutant nation of Genosha, it feels very
now don't
important.
actually put spoilers here, because people may not watch
no spoilers. No, I'm not gonna. You have to watch X-Men 97 for yourself. It is one of the best things, not because it's not technically part of the MCU, but it is done by Marvel Studios, and I will say it is one of the best things that Marvel in general has ever produced since like their inception in the 90s. Mm-hmm. So definitely check that out. It's an amazing show.
Okay, my recommendation.
Here we go.
What is my recommendation?
What is your recommendation?
I don't know.
I thought you prepared one before we got on the pod.
No, I just didn't want to be left out.
Is it Modern Family?
Oh my god. No, John!
What?
You suck.
I didn't. Nope. Did I spoil something? I don't know.
My recommendation is... Was my recommendation Jane the Virgin last time?
Yes.
Okay, because... Current recommendation.
It's on the list.
All right. Let me think.
We don't got all day, dude. People got to get back to their days. You know, they can't listen to us, go back and forth forever.
You're right. They stopped doing everything that they were doing just to hear us talk for far too long.
They want our recommendations.
I don't have
Hey,
one.
This is the most we've talked this week. Come on.
That's so not true. Stop. Okay, fine. I don't have one.
You don't have one? What? You gotta have at least one.
You're so
Weren't you
annoying.
watching Quiet on Set?
Yeah, I mean, I only watched one episode so far.
How was it? Revealing? I don't want to watch it because I'm scared.
I mean, like, I want to watch it because, like, I want to know. I think it's important. But, yeah, I mean, obviously it's not a feel-good.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I've
only seen
something that's not feel good.
I haven't seen more than one episode. I like documentaries, so I
think it's so funny that you're just like, I want to watch something that makes me feel good, and then you go watch the bleakest documentary ever.
But it's a documentary. It's about history and things that really have happened. Exactly. So it's important to know about and learn from. Whereas like fantasy shows, fiction shows should make me feel good.
You're just like,
tell me I'm wrong.
Your logic baffles
sense.
Me. Your logic literally baffles me.
At least I have some.
Okay. We're going to wrap this up. So thank you for joining us. What?
What do they have to look forward to?
Well, if you would let me plug, I will plug it. So
you're taking too long.
What I'm trying to say is that next Pratiti Picks, tune in as we cover Modern Family.
Which is a real Pratiti pick.
Yes, it is a real Pratiti pick. It's not a John pick disguised as a Pratiti pick.
You know what?
So.
I would like to point out, all of my picks, John goes in with the uttermost reluctance.
Uttermost?
Yes. I have a show to recommend.
Wait, what is it?
Love is Blind.
Oh my God.
Yes!
You literally just thought of it.
Yeah, I did. When I thought of your reluctance, but me proving you right.
Love is Blind is fun. This new season's very fun.
Yeah. Watch Love is Blind.
Love is Blind.
It's good.
Yeah, all the people on it this season are kind of terrible, except for like 2. So prepare yourself.
That's what makes it enjoyable. Anyways.
Yes.
Modern Family is amazing. I've watched some of the show, but not all of it growing up. But
we'll get to watch all of it then.
And just watching the first several episodes, it's just light, it's fun, and it's well written.
It's very DIY. I like that about it.
Is it nuanced, John, for you?
We'll have to ask me that next pod.
I mean, on the first 6 episodes, was it nuanced for you?
It wasn't nuanced enough. Kind of, It's there. It's gonna have to grow on me a bit, but it is very funny. I do like it.
It's so good. You just have to grow on it because it wasn't your idea. Otherwise, you would have already been
okay.
Like, oh my God, it's amazing.
Okay. So that's all we have for you guys on this new episode of Pratiti Picks. Very excited for you to join us. Coming up on my channel, I have my Taylor Swift review. The Tortured Poets Department is coming, as well as the new review for the Pearl Jam album that's dropping the same day. Not nearly getting enough buzz, but I'm very excited for that as well.
No, they seem to be like very similar albums, if you ask me.
I can't deal with your sarcasm right now.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining. I am excited for the next time. I think it'll be a really good pod.
The next time will be when I walk home from work.
Yeah. I'm excited. And guys, tune in to X-Men 97. Right. Seriously, it's dropping tonight, I think. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Still don't know how to end.